The peaceful county of Midsomer, the murder capital of Great Britain, where every conceivable murder method has been used to savage effect. Step out in Midsomer and you take your life in your hands.
Time of death approximately 10 p.m. Cause of death, allosteric inhibition of essential metabolic enzymes leading to death from multi-system organ failure. Symptoms consistent with poisoning by arsenic or similar. It's also worth noting the victim's been beaten with a blunt instrument, possibly a large wooden marquee mallet. And she has received multiple stab wounds to neck and shoulders. Single-edged blade suggests large kitchen knife. In summary, another day in Midsomer, another murder. I'm Dr. George Bullard, Midsomer Constabulary Pathologist. And you know, I thought it was going to be a nice, cushy little number, seeing out my last years in the country before the old police pension kicked in. Did I ever get that wrong?
With such a high number of homicides per year, any visit to Midsomer should be treated with caution. So here are 7 lessons, a kind of essential tourist information, if you like, that show what to do and what not to do should you find yourself down Midsomer Way.
So here we are. How to stay alive in England's most dangerous county. Surviving Midsomer, an insider's guide.
But before we begin our journey, we need to establish just why this peaceful corner of the UK draws so many victims like lambs to the slaughter.
I think it's because it is a version of the classic English whodunit. Goes back as far as Sherlock Holmes, even beyond that, and comes up through Dorothy Sayers, and certainly the immediate predecessor to Midsomer Murders is, of course, Agatha Christie's work. But we're a bit more bloody than Agatha Christie, and that's the twist for us. The great appeal, I think, for the viewer watching it is the contrast between the extraordinary gentility and very English gentility of the appearance of Midsomer and the awful, bloody savagery behind the lace curtains.
So before any more blood is spilt, on to the first lesson.
This is a typical Midsomer village green. Lovely, isn't it? Don't be fooled. The summer's a particularly dangerous time round these parts. Respectable village folk tend to embark on local get-togethers with boundless enthusiasm and evil in mind.
That's looking really good, Charles. Thank you.
In Midsomer, wherever a crowd of folk is found enjoying themselves in a seemingly innocent community fashion, you can bet your last raffle ticket that one of them is thinking of murder.
The fate that my character's involved with, I think I'm right in saying there was a guy tied on a horse, sitting backwards, with a hood over his head, and he got shot in the head from a distance.
He's been shot.
Well, don't look at me.
I mean, that was quite unusual for wherever you are, really. I mean, a guy in a hood on the wrong, riding a horse the wrong way, with his hands tied behind his back as well. So he had no control over the animal either. It was spectacular.
If you must go to the village fete, be vigilant. In the confusion and merriment, it's all too easy to drop your guard. Keep your wits about you, stay with the crowd. Whatever you do, don't get separated from the group. Murderers love a straggler.
What could possibly be dangerous about a fete? Cake stalls, homemade jam and brass bands. Surely fetes are the epitome of English village life.
The best way to avoid being killed in a village fete is not to go. In my professional opinion, it's just don't turn up, don't even think about it, sit at home, have a beer, even go to the pub, you won't be killed. Go to a village fete, you take your life in your hands. You know, what's behind the jar of jam? That's what I want to know, you know. But a green gauge, I don't think so. Bow and arrow in the head, in the forehead, very nice too, thank you.
And it was a bow and arrow, something that should have been a harmless sideshow attraction, that was to be the murder method in the classic episode Death's Shadow. Actress Laura Howard plays Cully Barnaby, daughter of Midsomer detective Tom Barnaby. Her character will never forget going to this particular fete.
At that fete, the man she was with did die, yes, with an arrow to the back. And it was a shock to her, hence the dropping of the teacups and the subsequent scream.
So that was certainly a fate worse than death for the late Mr. Cully.
Simon! Simon!
Nasty stuff. She had a soft spot for him too. Mind you, so did the archer. Right between the shoulder blades and straight through the heart. We have some fine marksmen in Midsomer. Even if you manage to avoid being killed in one of these quaint little midsummer bashes, the odds are you'll still have experienced some nastiness. These are hotbeds of jealousy, bitterness, and revenge. They glue them on, you know.
Coconut shells, they're the worst, you know? You know, you seen that coconut shell? You know when the coconut comes off? Imagine your head is the coconut.
So the fete provides the perfect setting for a killing. Crowds of people innocently having fun on the village green. A perfectly English place for a murder.
People abroad love to see caricatures of the English way of life. Some people take it very seriously. I've had letters from Russian people in Russia who, God knows, think that it's real, that think that English society is like that the murders are as high in the leafy lanes of Buckinghamshire as they are on the streets of Chicago.
These examples demonstrate that in Midsomer you can come to a terrible fate in more ways than one. Some people think crowds are a problem. Let me tell you they're not. It's a fundamental schoolboy error that by wandering off alone you'll be safe. You won't. If you think crowds are scary, think again. Being alone can be even more terrifying. Forget Blair Witch. The Midsummer woods can be lethal.
Join us after the break as we go down to the woods to see just why they're so popular for a murder or two. And we'll show why it's best to avoid any extracurricular activities in Midsummer County.
See you in a minute, I hope. Hello again. So far in our survival guide, we've learned that if you want to avoid the murder and mayhem that this county is famous for, rule number 1 is avoid the village festivals. Rule number 2 refers to this place and others like it. Now, at first glance, these woods are a picture, an absolute haven of wildlife, a twitcher's dream, the perfect place for a country stroll, perhaps. Or perhaps not.
And so on to our next lesson in this invaluable guide to surviving in Midsummer.
Rule number 2, stay out of the woods.
Well, woods are always good for murders, aren't they? You know, they look so great. The light lancing down through the trees, people running through. It's always looks exciting.
Ah, the woods. Sunlight dappling through the leaves, the snapping of twigs underfoot, and the hoot of an owl. And hopefully no nasty surprises lurking in the bushes.
Oh my God!
Oh well, this is midsummer after all. So what would a police officer recommend for woodland survival?
If you have to go to the woods, go in daylight. It's probably better than going at 3 o'clock in the morning in the pitch black. Wear sensible clothing that's quite bright so people can see you rather than, mow you down with a lawnmower or something, or, think you're a boulder and hurl you into the pond. That's my advice.
To survive in the woods in midsummer, I just wouldn't go anywhere near them. You'd probably be stumbling over bodies left, right and centre anyway. It'd be a pretty dangerous place to hang out, simply because there'd be so many corpses lying on the floor.
And Cully Barnaby knows only too well about the dangers of going into the woods, even if you think you're amongst friends.
Cully went into the woods when she organised a reunion for her and her school friends, and they started off actually at a village fete.
I'd like a piece of Victoria sponge, please. What happened to that diet? What diet? Anyway, it's the weekend. Thank you. I've arranged something.
But they moved on to the woods. It's kind of like when you go to a bar and then you move on to a club. They started at a village fete and moved on to the woods near a lake, where they subsequently tried to kill her. They tried to drown her.
Cully's old school friends are actually trying to drown her in a woodland lake. But fortunately her boyfriend comes to save the day. Maybe having a boyfriend is essential for midsummer survival.
Nearly proved fatal, but only really because it was near a lake. If she'd just gone into the forest, she might have been fine.
The woods are scary enough, but in the deepest part of the midsummer forest, what could be more mysterious than a deserted house? Surely no one could be stupid enough to go in.
Good God.
Okay, now we've seen it.
No wonder that Davis woman was so secretive. Whoever's put that offer in must be terrified of losing it.
Such desperation to get on the property ladder in midsummer often leads to desperate measures.
Peter, I'm tired, I'm cold, and I want to go home.
Jason Hughes remembers this episode as having some particularly horrific murders.
There was a house in the woods. The very first episode that I did, George Baker was playing twins. And he garroted and... what else did he do? He garroted somebody. He killed a few out there in that house in the woods.
Garroted. Very popular in Spain at one time.
So the house in the woods, in need of some modernisation, really was a property to die for.
And you are?
Constable Jones, sir.
Constable Jones. What do you think, Constable Jones?
Well, he could only kill them one at a time, couldn't he, sir? So why didn't the other one put up a fight?
And if the other was already killed before the other one got in, why didn't you notice?
Unless there were two murderers.
What, both hiding in the back? If the killer did get in here, they must both have been out of the vehicle at the time, leaving it unlocked. Then they got back in.
One at a time.
And he killed them, one at a time.
The woods are a perfect place for a murder. Nobody around to hear the blows and screams.
Help me, get me out of here! Get me out of here!
Better make that blows and screams and large caliber rifle fire.
Nobody here to find the body until the assassin is far, far away. Perfect.
So the midsummer woods are a murder hotspot. Death lurks behind every tree, and it would appear that there is no desire for the killing to stop.
Midsomer, I don't know, we killed more people than you shake a stick at, and it was thought at one time that it was getting a little bit ludicrous, and therefore the murder count should be reduced somewhat. When we tried to do that, there were complaints. People didn't like it very much, and that's part of the joy of it, is the joke, if you like, is the sheer number of murders in Midsomer.